Hey everyone, it's Colin, how's it going? There are plenty of mods and upgrades for popular retro handheld consoles, but let's look at one for a system that didn't quite realize its potential. This is a Frontlight kit for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which was kindly sent my way to check out by Handheld Legend. The console's LCD screen is of the reflective variety, just like the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and adding a front light lets you see it in dark conditions. But you probably already knew that, so let's get it installed. I started by taking out the 6 screws on the back of the system. 2 of them are hiding in the battery compartment, and they're all Phillips head, except for the one on the lower left, which, strangely enough, is a tri-wing. Once I removed the back housing, I took out the 3 screws holding in the motherboard. I ended up desoldering the speaker wires since the adhesive holding it in the front panel was still pretty strong, and then popped the joystick knob off its stem using a spudger. Next, I flipped the board up towards the top to expose the screen connection. I unlatched the bail on both sides of the connector, then the flat flex cable slid out easily. The screen itself, like the speaker, is held to the front housing with adhesive. I've found that gently flexing the housing from corner to corner can help pop the screen loose. The next step is optional, but a really good idea to do because it produces much better results. I used Loca, or liquid optically clear adhesive, to bond the Frontlight panel to the screen. Make sure the screen is clean, otherwise any smudges or dust will become really obvious when the mod is complete. I peeled the protective film off the Frontlight panel, then applied a pool of Loca to the screen. The Frontlight then got pressed smooth side down into the Loca. A trick I learned to help spread the adhesive and work out any air bubbles is to gently swirl the Frontlight against the screen. Applying slightly more pressure to the side away from a bubble will help push it towards the edge. And if it seems like you didn't apply enough Loca, you can pick the Frontlight up and add a bit more. Just make sure that the panel is lined up with the LCD on all sides. Loca cures when exposed to UV light, so I've found the easiest way to bond the Frontlight properly is to just leave the screen on a sunny windowsill for an afternoon. But if you have a few bucks to spare, an inexpensive UV lamp can give quicker and better results. Another optional but recommended step is to remove the foil reflector strips from the panel while installing it. This reduces the risk of an effect called spidering that's caused by uncured adhesive. Taking these off helps to make sure that UV reaches all of the Loca. And it's easy to make a replacement front reflector from a piece of aluminum tape if you go this route. Once the adhesive cured, I dropped the screen back into the front housing. I stuck the Frontlight's power wires down with Kapton tape to keep them in the right position. The black wire goes towards the bottom, and the red wire goes out the left side between the B and option buttons. Next, I cut down the orange foam pads on the motherboard using a pair of flush cutters, since the screen's now thicker with the Frontlight panel. I reconnected the ribbon cable, which can be a little tricky sometimes, then set the motherboard back into place and reinstalled its screws. I routed the black wire around the volume wheel, then soldered it to the ground point just below the cartridge connector. The red wire got soldered to the left side of the capacitor labeled C20, then I tucked the extra into the front housing. The last bit of soldering was just to reconnect the speaker wires I had desoldered earlier. Then it was simply a matter of putting the rear housing on and pressing the joystick knob back into place. In my case, the console went back together well, with no obvious seam between the case halves. If it seems like the screen's extra thickness is keeping things from fitting properly, you can remove the metal frame from the back of the LCD to make it thinner. Just be careful because the adhesive holding it on is really strong. As for the results, I find it works quite well. The illumination is nice and even and has a reasonable brightness. It does reduce the clarity of the screen a bit because of the texture required to make the Frontlight panel work, but the Pocket Color screen isn't terribly high-res to begin with, and this is just the nature of Frontlights in general. Most would agree that a backlit screen would be the best option, but just like with the Game Boy Color, the reflective screen in this console was custom designed for it, and there's no drop-in backlit replacement. Now, also like with the Game Boy Color, it could be possible to retrofit a third-party screen, though I don't think this is very likely to happen given the fact that the NGPC isn't as popular and far fewer of them were sold. But I'd love to be proven wrong. But until or unless that day comes, this Frontlight kit is the best option to illuminate the Pocket Color screen. And at about $10 US for the panel, plus another few dollars for some Loca, it's an inexpensive and pretty straightforward mod too. The NGPC is a system that, for its time, had a lot of promise, but just couldn't compete with the Game Boy. Maybe this is the upgrade it needed all along. Big thanks goes to Handheld Legend for providing a Frontlight kit and some other parts to help with this review. I'll include links down in the description. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.